America answered. The silent majority became a roaring army.
The silent majority just became a roaring army. While the media demonized ICE agents as villains, something extraordinary happened. 175,000 American patriots stepped up to join their ranks. That's right. Despite the left's vicious propaganda campaign, despite judges tearing down ICE facility fences, despite threats of violence from radical activists, these brave Americans said enough is enough. They're flooding recruitment offices from coast to coast, ready to defend our borders and restore law and order. Border czar Tom Homan dropping the hammer with a simple message. We're showing consequences for breaking our laws. But here's what's really driving the left insane. This massive recruitment surge happened after they spent months attacking ICE. The backlash is real, so stay tuned. But did you know the gold has gone mainstream? Seeing it everywhere. Prices keep climbing. Every day, more Americans are catching on to the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Noble Gold specialists, they help investors go from confused to confident. Whether you're rolling over an old 401k into a gold IRA or want physical coins and bars delivered to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple. Visit nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below to claim your free wealth protection kit and see if you qualify for that silver bonus, a 10-ounce silver flag bar and a 1-ounce silver eagle. Call that number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Now, before we get into the ICE news, we have some news on the Bolton indictment that is pending. Panic is erupting within Democrat circles after John Bolton, Letitia James, and James Comey were indicted, with major concerns that more indictments are coming against deep state or corrupt officials. Listen to this.
Is taking they do it, but why?
This is MSNBC.
Why are we even having this conversation? Why is this happening? Because Donald Trump has ordered his Justice Department to systematically go after his political opponents. Again, show me the man, I will show you the crime. And I think that
that's exactly what they did to Donald Trump, remember?
His political opponents. Again, show me the man, I will show you the crime. And I think that, again, we need to balance those thoughts at the same time. And I really appreciate the caution with which people are addressing this right now and the distinctions between this prosecution and, say, the prosecution of James Comey. But let's never forget that this prosecution is taking place because Donald Trump wills it and will continue, as Maya just said, will continue to insist upon these kinds of vindictive prosecution. They do it, but why?
Yeah, these prosecutions need to happen. Here we have this. Following an activist judge ordered DHS now removing fencing around ICE Broadview near Chicago. This comes just days ahead of mass protests, the King's Day riots. Judicial tyranny is going to end up getting ICE agents killed. Here's the video. Look, they're taking down what's intended to protect those facilities. And the No Kings riots are about to happen this weekend. That ICE facility, especially with no National Guard protection, sitting ducks. Whatever's going to happen in Broadview this weekend is going to be scary. One by one, panel removed. Activist judges overruling the executive branch's ability to protect its own facilities in light of domestic terror attacks against them by Soros-funded agitators. This is insane. But of course, the media, they continue to demonize ICE. However, 175,000 patriots have now stepped up and applied anyway. Let's hear what they're saying.
Months. You guys, I'm hyped for this one. You want proof that nobody cares about the No Kings protests? Do you want proof that America is waking up and not listening to that crowd? Well, how about 175,000 Americans applying to work for ICE in just the last few months? People are lining up to help defend our borders, protect our communities, and bring law and order back to this country. This isn't fear. This is patriotism. These are everyday Americans saying we're not buying what the media is telling us anymore, because the same media that tried to demonize ICE for years is now watching the American people proudly step up to wear that badge. Under President Trump.
Did you see that sign, though, at the beginning? Join ICE today. $50,000 signing bonus. What would you do with $50,000, a signing bonus? That is remarkable. Quite an incentive, not just to protect your country, but get a fat signing bonus. 175,000 Americans applying for jobs at ICE. Big headline here. Fox News just came out, too. ICE announced the arrest of an illegal alien from Montenegro who was working as a sworn police officer. Montenegro. Here's the press secretary on Fox 6 hours ago.
This just came out, apparently as part of Operation Midway Blitz. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, announced the arrest of Radule Bojovic, an illegal alien from Montenegro who was working as a sworn police officer with the Hanover Park Police Department. Bojovic apparently was encountered during a targeted enforcement action as part of Operation Midway Blitz. DHS reminding it's a felony for an illegal alien to possess a firearm. And this fellow apparently was working as a sworn police officer. I know you might not know much about it, but wondering if we can get an initial reaction.
No, this is the first time I'm hearing of it. I will take your facts as the facts, John, on this one. And it's unsurprising to me to hear this because we've seen various examples of this. There was a superintendent, I believe in the state of Iowa, who was here in this country illegally with a final order of removal. We've seen that New York State has been giving out licenses illegally to illegal aliens with literally it says no name given on the driver's license. So these are the cases that happen when you had an administration, the Biden administration, for 4 years that completely neglected the laws of our homeland, that allowed mass invasion of tens of millions of illegal aliens, and they have been infiltrated into our communities. So this is another unfortunate example of that, and the Department of Homeland Security is doing incredible work every single day in the face of grave danger and threats, and also Democrats holding their paychecks hostage. We have federal law enforcement who are trying to keep our communities safe, and they are not being paid because of the Democrat Party, but they are doing God's work, and we are very grateful for them, and the president stands behind them 100%.
This
shocking news. But here is equally shocking. Crazy Bernie says ICE raids, in which some of the most dangerous criminals on earth have been taken off American streets, are about a movement towards authoritarianism. So enforcing the law is authoritarianism. Got it, Bernie.
On Trump, what he is trying to do and what ICE raids and knocking down doors are about is to make all of you afraid.
That's
You're
right.
a federal employee, don't speak up. You're a government official, don't speak up. You're in a law firm that somehow had clients taking on Trump, don't speak up because they're going to punish you. You are on CNN, we're going to sue you if you ask the wrong questions. My friends, what this is about.
No, they're suing them when they spread disinformation and lies. You can ask questions, but you can't spread outright lies, and CNN has been sued a number of times for that. Covington kids, anyone?
Is a movement toward authoritarianism, intimidating us all. What he is trying to do and what ICE raids and knocking down doors are about is to make.
Let's see, we got some more here. Borders are Tom Homan snapping after Chris Cuomo attacks ICE deportation strategy.
These men and women look, the masks, it's a bad look, all right? I understand the security problem with it, but it's a bad look. You make these men and women look like Hamas, and then you don't think people are going to react to them that way. Of course they are. They got their, it's like this stupid movie, Men in Masks Not Be Trusted. That's what you're setting them up for. I get the risk. Color of authority matters also. They should have a badge. You should be able to identify what they are. Nobody should have to guess that they're getting duped and they're not who they say they are. Everybody does it the same way. I get the sensitivity of the security. I'm with you. Two things that I think are getting stuck up. One, you talk about seeing data all the time. You guys do not put out data enough. Track is the best thing that they have, right? Syracuse University has this open FOIA request. I hear you on shows all the time, Tom. I do not think that you're FOS, okay? I've known you a long time. You can't say I see the data all the time. Great, I don't. Put the data out, because track, you can look it up for yourself, TRAC, it's an acronym through Syracuse University. It's like 50-50. That takes me to the next point, which is you're not cutting fat, you're cutting muscle. And these communities need people who may have entered the wrong way but have done everything right since. And their kids are here, and they're productive, and their employers need them. What?
That's for Congress to do. They got to read.
I'm not on. Listen, Tom and I have talked about this. You're an enforcement guy. I'm with you, and Tom makes the right point that they got to fix it. But enforcement priorities matter.
Fredo, get to the point.
I'm being transparent tonight. 70% of everybody arrested is a criminal. President Trump said we're going to concentrate on national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing. The data shows it. And like I said, for the hundreds of thousands of criminals that is going to be removed in this administration, it makes that country safe again, keeping President Trump's promise to American people what he was going to do. He said he's going to have the largest deportation operation in history. We're going to have the largest deportation operation in history. You look at numbers right now, I just told you, over 500,000 have been deported between CBP and ICE. And that's not counting the first 4 months of the fiscal year that were under Biden. We're not even counting those months. But if you extrapolate that in the monthly apprehension we got right now, you do have the biggest operation in the history of the nation. And one of the reasons people don't understand, why do we have the most secure border in the nation's history? Because President Trump's executive orders, his leadership on that, the men and women of the border who stand in that front line and catch and release. And third, because the whole world sees ICE out there every day across this nation enforcing the immigration law, sends a clear message of consequences so families don't spend their life savings handed to a criminal cartel to make that dangerous journey because they know there's consequences. President Trump's policies, whether people want to face it or not, is saving lives by the thousands. Under Joe Biden, a record number of aliens died making that journey. A record number of Americans died from fentanyl coming across that border. This administration is not only enforcing law and making our streets safe again, they're saving thousands of lives.
Look, the mask.
Thousands and thousands of lives are being saved. Here's more from Tom Homan on Fox. Because one of the reasons we have the most secure border.
Because we have the most secure border in history of this nation, because of President Trump's leadership and executive orders, because the men and women of the Border Patrol, what they're doing on that border, but also because of what ICE is doing in the interior and showing, like Governor did, we have consequences. You will be locked up. You will be deported. And we send that message across the whole world that we got over 1,000 ICE teams on the streets every day. People are giving their life savings to the criminal cartels to make that dangerous journey. So one of the reasons we have the most secure border in history of this nation is because we're showing there's consequences. And we got great relationships with several governors across the country. We're going to keep showing there are consequences for violating our laws. There are consequences for ignoring an immigration judge's removal. And there are consequences for committing crimes against you as citizens, especially if you're here illegally.
Consequences, baby. Here's Stephen Miller, 22 hours ago.
President Trump's kind words. First of all, let me say how touched I was by President Trump's kind words today, and what a extraordinary honor it is to work for him. The work that he has done on public safety these last several months will go down in history as one of the greatest achievements that any president has ever accomplished. Just look here at our nation's capital. Sean, you and I have talked about this before. It is the largest, steepest, fastest reduction in violent crime ever recorded at any place in the history of our country. And I think you would say the history of any country. The change has been night and day. This is now one of the safest cities in the world from one of the most violent cities in the world. In Memphis, where President Trump has launched his task force in full force less than 2 weeks ago, we are already hearing reports of crime reductions that are so staggering, people can't even believe it. And we see videos posted online all day by residents who are saying for the first time that they can remember, their kids can play outside, they can walk down the street, they can go where they want to go, do what they want to do. They feel liberated because they have been liberated. At that same press conference today, President Trump talked about how under his leadership and direction, the FBI has arrested and removed and prosecuted with the Department of Justice over 20,000 of the most violent criminals on earth in just the last several months. 20,000. Think about how many lives that saved, Sean. Think about how many families that saved. The contrast couldn't be more clear. We have Democrat politicians, Democrat judges, Democrat prosecutors setting loose thugs, hoodlums, gangbangers, and cartel killers that are stabbing children to death, murdering innocent women on the subway, mugging people in broad daylight, making life hell for law-abiding citizens. And we have President Trump using DOJ, DHS, and yes, the U.S. military to make our cities safe again for all Americans. I am so proud, Sean, to be able to be a small part of President Trump's leadership and his effort to make America secure for our people.
And we are glad you're there, Stephen. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. See, this is what winning looks like, patriots. The media spent years painting ICE agents as monsters, comparing them to Nazis, calling for their abolishment. Chris Cuomo even said they look like Hamas. And what happened? 175,000 Americans raised their hands and said, "Sign me up." That's the real America responding to the radical left's attacks. Now, these aren't just numbers. Okay, these are fathers, mothers, veterans, and young patriots who've had enough of watching their country get invaded. Tom Homan's message resonates because it's a simple truth. Enforce the law, protect Americans, show consequences for breaking our borders. Meanwhile, activist judges are literally tearing down ICE facility fences before this weekend's Soros-funded riots. They're terrified because America is fighting back. So here's my question. Would you or someone in your family consider joining ICE to defend our nation? Yes or no? Let's have a conversation in the comments. And if you don't want to put on that uniform, you can always put on one of ours. Wear your support proudly. Check out our merch shop. It's linked down below.